Hi, guys. So, up to this point, your weeks have been pretty easy. We only had a couple of weeks where we were doing double duty on chapters. In fact, the last 3 weeks, it's been pretty easy with just a chapter a week. Um, this week, though, we're going to triple down. All right. All of these chapters, 8, 9, and 10, all kind of relate together. So, this is a good place to put them all together. You will only have one discussion, but you will have 3 different PowerPoints with voiceovers, 3 different chapters to read, and you will have 3 different quizzes. All right. So keep those things in mind. Also, remember your gallery analysis assignments and your final review. All right. I think that kind of clears up everything there. So now in chapter 8, we're going to be looking at art and how artists portray our identities. Okay. So now genealogy is kind of a pastime of mine when and if I ever have any extra time. My aunt and uncle on my mother's side were the history tracers. They used to peruse the internet, write letters, travel, anything they could to meet as many possible relatives and compare stories that traced that side of the family back many, many, many generations. On my father's side, family lines were traced back to about 17th century Wales. And some interesting things that we found out, which are kind of weird too. Um, right after my son was born, I found out that my dad's great great grandfather's name was David Evans. Evans was my maiden name. My dad didn't have any boys, so my son's middle name is Evan. All right. So his great great grandfather's name was David Evans, and he was born on June 11th. My son, David Evan, was also born on June 11th, but over 100 years later. Sometimes a genealogy search can turn up some wild and weird things. For me, my family is my identity. It is my past, it's my present, it's my future. I may not have the same worldviews as they all did, but they are what makes me me. All right, so we're going to see how artists portray the types of identities that we identify with. All right, so with that said, that PowerPoint, Chapter 8 PowerPoint, is probably the shortest one you've had, but it's full of a lot of really good information. And I would encourage you to dig into it a little bit further. Now, in Chapter 9, we're going to be talking about art and power. So, did you know that art has power? It does. It has the power to make us happy or sad. It has the power to express our emotions. It has the power to persuade others to see our viewpoints. And in Chapter 9, we're going to be seeing a number of topics that probably is going to hit home in this day and age. And we're going to be looking at art, its power, propaganda, politics, and persuasion. Now, we're going to be getting into some issues that have been happening within the last 1 to 2 years in the United States with statues being torn down because they offend people. And I would just like to interject one thing here. Okay. You take it for what it's worth. I'm not trying to make you think my way. All right. But if people are going to start tearing down statues and getting rid of artwork or getting rid of books because it offends somebody, for example, a number of states removed the statues of Christopher Columbus because they were offended by the way he treated the indigenous people. And it wasn't good. All right. But we also have to remember the time frame that that was in. If we're going to do that, then we've got to look long and hard at all of our other heroes. Because in this country, we had a president, a very influential president, that was instrumental in promoting the attitudes in the country that ultimately led to the Trail of Tears and with thousands and thousands of indigenous people being stripped of their land and moved to places they didn't want to be, all because European descendants wanted that land. So as we go through chapter 9, just keep an open mind, okay? You may have some very strong feelings one way or another, but I think we have to be very, very careful that we're not getting rid of stuff just because it is offensive. Maybe instead we need to be taking those things and learning from them. Okay? So off my soapbox, and now on to chapter 10. And in chapter 10, we're going to be looking at art and its place in ritual life. Now, a ritual is defined by Merriam Webster's dictionary as of or relating to rites or rituals. In other words, something ceremonial, something that is according to religious law, something done in accordance with social custom or normal protocol, the established form for ceremony or an act or series of acts that regularly repeat in a precise manner. All right. Now, if you go to church, your church probably has some sort of a set routine that you go through on a Sunday by Sunday basis. Now, that will vary from church to church and from denomination to denomination, but it also applies to a lot of other areas of our lives. Now, we could take this class and we can make this chapter and we can make a whole class out of it. In fact, East Central offers a few religion classes. So if this perks your interest, I encourage you to look into that. Everybody has rituals. I do in the morning when I get up and I'm getting ready to go to work. I have my cup of coffee. I watch the morning news. I catch up on my Facebook and my emails, and then I start getting ready. And I have a set order in which I do those things to get ready for the day. That's probably more information than you really wanted to have, but it just kind of shows what creatures of habit we are. If my morning routine gets messed up, I'm messed up for the day. Now, those of you who play sports, maybe you have a lucky shirt or lucky socks. You might put your uniform on in the same order every single time. Um, I don't know if you've ever really watched a baseball game and watched the batters. When those batters come up to bat, they all have a routine, a ritual that they do every time before they take a swing. Okay. Maybe they adjust their gloves, maybe they their hat, maybe they touch their uh, bat to home plate, but they do it every single time exactly the same. A basketball player may bounce the basketball a certain number of times before shooting a free throw. It really is kind of interesting to people watch and watch people's routines and their rituals. So maybe you can identify as we look at the role of art in ritual life.